Earlier this week, indeed on Friday, we did see the arrest and detention of the Nandi Hills Member of Parliament Alfred Keter for claims of having fake treasury bills. Let's listen into the CBK Head of Communications speaking during that incident. That is Wallace Kantai.
Were forged treasury bills, and obviously this is a crime. And so that's why these individuals are under arrest.
Allow me to say something.
No.
I'll speak.
Sorry? These have been presented. I don't have the exact dates, but they have been presented over the course of the last few. I think that's it. If you'll allow it to end there. Yeah. Thank you. Second? No, they're under arrest. They'll be taken to police stations. Yes. No, I don't have that information yet. Like I said, I'll just make the statement, and more information will be coming.
That is the Head of Communications of the CBK, Wallace Kantai. The MP was not allowed to speak then. A number of MPs have gone to visit him in police custody, and there have been varied reactions, a lot of them condemning the manner in which he was arrested. Let's listen to some of them.
Polisi hawajatoa taarifa yote kusema ya kwamba watamstaki kama amefanya kosa gani. Na jambo la kushangaza, wamemzuilia na hata wajamwambia andikishe statement. Hata vile yako police station hapa hivi, hajakuwa booked in the occurrence book, na wakisema ya kwamba hii ni kesi ya headquarters. Na tukiwauliza maswali, wanasema ya kwamba bado wanangojea taarifa kutoka kwa walalamishi ambapo ni Central Bank ya Kenya.
Tumefika hapa pia, ukiuliza polisi, mbona mjabuku huyu mtu? Mbona msimbe ile police bail, cash bail ile kidogo, aende arudi Jumatatu kwa sababu ni mheshimiwa. Wanasema from above. Unajua tumerudi sasa ile maneno ya zamani ya kusema neno imetoka huko juu ambaye hatuwezi. Kila mtu anatatemeka. Basi utakwisha wote sasa.
Tunataka sheria ifuatwe na itumike vyema. Mheshimiwa hapa kushikiliwa na kuwekelewa hapa ni mbinu ya kihemla. Sheria haijafuatwa na hizi ni njama fupi. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kumweleza Uhuru, barabara unayojenga, stima unayotuletea, maji unayolepatia mwananchi, usalama unaoweka taifa ya Kenya haitakupatia jina nzuri. Kila ambacho itakupatia jina nzuri kama Uhuru Kenyatta utapokwenda kustahafu ni kuheshimu sheria. Serikali yako lazima iheshimu sheria. Na mimi nataka kuzungumza kwa sababu wewe ni rafiki wangu. Na mimi nitakutetea. Wakati watu wote walikuwa wamekutoroka 2013, mimi nikasimama nikasema Uhuru tosha. Leo ningependa Uhuru yule tunayemjua hawachane na kwenda kukandamiza watu kupitia kwa polisi. Mimi nitazungumza kwa sababu nina machungu, nimevumilia vya kutosha. Lakini inavyokwenda kwa sasa, hii nchi tunaweza kuleta vurumai. Sisi ni watu wa Rift Valley. Kiongozi huyu anatoka kwetu. Tunaulizwa maswali. Ikakueje mheshimiwa akawekewa mambo ambazo haina ukweli na akawekwa mbaroni. Kwa hivyo sisi tunataka kusema kwamba serikali jinsi inavyoshughulikia haya mambo sisi hatupendelei.
Absolutely, that's a travesty of justice, and that's why we are asking that they speed up these investigations, and if they have nothing against them, they leave them and release them with immediate effect.
All right, some of the leaders from the Rift Valley are reacting to the arrest and the detention of Alfred Keter, the Member of Parliament for Nandi Hills. Mutinda, let me start with you. A lot of them reading politics and malice to this. This, of course, was something that happened, and it was shocking to a lot of people, him being arrested with such allegations. What's your take on this?
My take is that a lot is still not known. Even from their statements there, you can clearly see that they also are not very clear as to the details of why Mheshimiwa was arrested. But the one thing that should come out clearly is that first, no one is above the law, and that irrespective of your status, if you found to be on the wrong side of the law, then the law should be allowed to take its course. So I'm very keen to see what he will be charged with tomorrow, going forward, so that the details can come out and we can get to know. But just to complain like you being a mheshimiwa should exempt you from the law taking its course when you found on the wrong, that again would not be proper. And it would also not be proper to find that he probably had done nothing wrong and he was treated the way he's been treated. So I think I'm among the people who have adopted a wait-and-see attitude to see exactly what it is that he did. And if he's in the wrong, then there would be nothing wrong with what... because if it were me, for instance, and I'm found to be on the wrong side of the law, I would be taken to the police and charges would be preferred against me in a court of law. So if that is the case with him, then there is nothing wrong. And now, considering that he's probably been on the wrong side of Jubilee politics, that's why most people want to give certain insinuations like it's probably some sort of harassment. But we can't authoritatively state that unless we are clear about what it is that he was arrested for. And like I've said, I'm among the people who are waiting to see tomorrow as he is taken to court, what exactly is it that he was trying to do, and what law has he broken? And if there's a law that is broken, I don't think there's anything wrong with being arrested and investigations being undertaken.
But of course, we have some details that it is claims of him in being in position with fake treasury bills.
Of course, if that is the case, then the government is very right to do what it is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Ben, I think this is the classic case of the crocodiles coming out to eat one of their own. Because we have been talking about rule of law in this country for quite some time now. And we are asking, treat someone as you would wish to be treated. Now, what has befallen Alfred Keter, the allegations are, from what I'm reading, and a good prosecutor will be able to stick quite a number of charges on him because they appear a little bit serious. You could stick fraud, you could stick forgery, uttering false documents, even corruption if you wish. But clearly, maybe there might be an attempt to silence him, but we cannot be very sure about that. What would urge the authorities in this country? Ensure when you are getting your accused persons, follow what is stipulated under Article 49 of the Constitution. Advise him what charge is being preferred against him. If you do not know the charges as at now, perhaps something is wrong with that investigation. But going forward, the case of Alfred Keter is something you need to look at it in a broader context, not even legally, but politically. You know, if you look at South Africa, somebody like Julius Malema is the one who actually brought the downfall of Jacob Zuma in the end. So if they follow this trend, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of aggrieved personalities, North Rift.
All right.
Yes.
Mark, Wakili here said crocodiles coming out to eat one of their own. And we know that Alfred Keter has been a thorn in the flesh of the Jubilee hierarchy, you know, for a long time, not even since the last election, but even the last 5 years. Is this a case of him being put in his place, so to speak?
You know, the trouble with my beloved country, Kenya, is separating fact from fiction and fiction from fact can be very difficult to do. But I like to think of things rather pragmatically. And my question at this particular juncture is, were these two fellows he was with, were they from his constituency? Was he doing his job as a member of parliament, representing his constituents to get their rights? That puts the game in a totally different realm. Was he doing a private deal? Was he doing a private favor for these people? And if he was doing a private favor, what influence does a member of parliament have over the Central Bank of Kenya? The very thought that if I am in trouble with a government institution, I can talk to a political friend, whichever their caliber, and they walk in there and bulldoze, is also a culture that needs to end in this country.
Right.
Third, if these documents were forged, then what kind of unscrupulous leaders do we have that they're entangling themselves with unscrupulous deals? But then again, if this is indeed a question of crocodiles eating crocodiles, why do we have crocodiles in the first place? Why do we have a pond full of crocodiles? This is one of those things that forces us and behooves us to relook at our conscience and our measurement metrics of our leaders. There's a lot in this, whether legal or illegal or political, that stinks to high heaven. The first stink pot is, why do we have a situation? Assume what they're saying is true, and if you read in the papers, they're talking about treasury bonds from 1990. 1990, 633 million. I would love to be able to forget someone who owes me 633 million for 27 years. I would love to be able to forget that. There's a question mark there. What happened? And how many other people does Kenya owe money, because that's a loan, do we owe that we've also forgotten? Secondly, if it is a fake document, how do you fake a treasury bill? In 2017, there's so much there that we need to discuss as a nation, up above and beyond Alfred Keter. Alfred Keter's behavior, again, you have to remember his behavior when certain trucks were caught in a weighbridge, and his language then. So the fact of the matter is, we need to check the crocodiles, we need to check treasury bills, we need to check Keter's behavior, we need to check ourselves as a society.
All right.
And not forgetting the central bank, because perhaps maybe their documentation is not in order. Yes. How can they be having treasury bonds from 1990? Yes. It doesn't make sense.
That means because they are only 90 days or 182 or something. They
yes,
can be.
Yes. A timeline.
So it means they've been carried forward for 27 years.
Yes.
All right. Dismas?
Yeah, Ben, three things that come into play. Number one, when you are a member of the National Assembly, you are not limited to only taking care of the interests of your voters back in the village. It's not unusual for Kenyans, if you know an MP, say Kavemba runs for Senate and he wins, if I've got an issue and I think his political capital would be of help, it doesn't stop me from looking for Kavemba, who is a Nairobi senator, to assist me. Then I say, let me go back to Kisii and get my Kisii senator to sort this out. It's not unusual. That one, in my view, is actually a best practice, because they're members of the National Assembly. They're not members of Kimosop Assembly. They're members of the National Assembly. That's number one. So what Mark is telling us, that when you see Keter with Indians or whatever it is, that you are supposed to smell a rat and become nervous, in my view, doesn't hold a lot of water. That's number one. Number two, let's go back to chapter 6 on the issue of integrity. On the bar that we are supposed to raise very high for people who go to public office. Now, if there is any public servant, any state officer who has engaged in any act of mischief, of course, he must face the full force of the law. So for some of those MPs to suggest that because you are a member of the National Assembly, then you need to be treated with the kid gloves, again, that's a contradiction that we don't want to entertain. But that being the case, then the rule of law and order must be followed. Because the Honorable Kutunya has indicated that the poor MP has not been booked in, the procedures have not been followed. So that's what we must seek to establish. But the bigger question is it a coincidence that lately, when you rise above the water and express divergent views from mainstream politics, then all of a sudden your file is dusted from somewhere, and then you come to the table, and then you are charged? So there are so many questions we need to be told, or rather, that needs to be answered by central bank. For instance, when you look at the correspondence from Desai and their lawyers, nowhere do you find Alfred Keter's name. So for Keter, it may just be the case that he knows Desai, maybe they're business friends, or even actually Desai, that gentleman, comes from Nandi Hills and is going to his MP. Why do we assume that we don't have Indians in Nandi Hills, yet we've got an MP from Eldoret who is of Indian origin? Why do we assume that somebody, you must have voted for somebody for him to take care of your interest? But at the end of the day, there's need of serious investigation at Central Bank of Kenya to establish this, because it smells like a scam. There's a lot of mischief going on, and we must do investigations. We can't allow this to end. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with President Kenyatta, as Kutunya has requested him, that is going to be remembered for respecting the rule of law and order. That if anybody has done a mistake, let's use the procedures as laid down. The lawyer has indicated Article 49. Let's follow that and respect everybody's rights. I mean, if you arrest somebody and they're incarcerated without placing a premium on the rule of law and order, it's unacceptable. And then the last message to Jubilee members of parliament: anytime they see NASA fighting for a cause which is around human rights and justice, they must join in, because you never know when this monster is coming for you.
All right.
If I may have a rebuttal. Yes. My issue is not on who is representing. My issue is very simple. It cannot be that a member of parliament is going to tell the central bank what to do. A member of parliament cannot even tell the police what to do. We need to stop this behavior. Where, let me finish, I allowed you to finish. Where, because you have a certain position, you put undue stress and duress and influence on institutions that are independent. As a nation, we need to stop.
No, but we know most of the time in Kenya, public servants tend to respond when they see political capital from a legislator.
Does not make it
They've got a lot more influence. Whether or not it's right, but it's what happens in Kenya. So there's nothing wrong for anybody to look up for Keter and say, because I know you've got political capital and you can open a door, please let's go to central bank and assist me sort out this matter. And nobody...
There should not be a door opened to your rights. Why do we need doors opened to our rights? Listen, you're perpetuating the culture of corruption, because corruption is not necessarily the exchange of money, but it is whenever a public official is forced to act in a certain way to win favor, under duress. All those are forms of corruption. Let's not say because everyone does it, it makes it right. You understand?
Right. And Ben, perhaps, just on a light note, perhaps the police should have considered not handcuffing the honorable member, because he comes out like a hardcore criminal and looking very desperate.
Yes, there's something and before you take a look at that, of course, a lot of people are alluding to the fact that Alfred Keter has been a kind of a rebel Jubilee member of parliament. One of the other rebel, quote-unquote, MPs in Jubilee Party, like Silas Tiren, the legislator for Moiben, has also spoken out about this issue. Let's listen in.
Nataka kujua na tuna demand, sababu nataka hata niombe my colleagues, wajumbe wenzangu. Ikiwa tutakuwa tunapikiwa moja hivi, tutaelekea wapi? Na kazi yetu ni kuhakikisha Wakenya waweze kufanyiwa kazi. Kwa hivyo leo ukiuliza jambo ya Wakenya, kesho unakuja kuulizwa. Keter juzi ilisemekana yeye ni mgaidi sababu alikataa kushuka, ndio hii naona ameshikwa leo. Tunataka Wakenya waambiwe ameshikwa ni kwa nini ameshikwa, so that tuweze kujua. Na sheria inasema kama uko na kesi ama uko na kitu yote, kuna njia ya kufuata so that uweze kwenda kotini. Si ati mtu uje ushikwa alafu ujulikane mahali huko. So tunataka Keter atolewe, kama ako na kesi apelekwe kotini.
All right, Silas Tiren, MP for Moiben constituency in the county of Uasin Gishu. As we wait for the charges to be preferred against him tomorrow in court, of course, we can only continue to speculate about and of course have analysis of what is happening politically, because he is a politician. And Mutinda, a lot of people, if you just go through social media platforms, have been asking this, saying, why is Keter arrested for allegations of stealing or being involved in fraud, the fake T-bills, 600 million, yet the NYS people stole billions and are walking free? I don't know. I want to be the devil's advocate.
You're doing a good job.
Yes, I am not very sure whether they are walking free, because at least I know some people were taken to court. I would want to know how far. Not everybody who was mentioned was taken to court, and probably that has something to do with whether there was sufficient evidence to take all those that were mentioned to court or not. But at least we are aware that there are some people who are taken to court.
Small fish were fried.
We were also informed that some properties were recovered.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You know, you might probably lack sufficient evidence to link the big fish. Only that when it comes to what is going around, their names are being dropped here and there. But when it comes to, you know, the issues of prosecution are not issues of hearsay. It is, you have to have sufficient evidence for you to sustain a prosecution.
Right.
And probably when it came to the big fish, that was not there. And that does not mean that everybody else who is found to be doing wrong should be excused just because there was no sufficient evidence when it came to some other matter to do with the loss of public funds. So I think that argument is not proper, because at the end of the day, it is about what evidence do we have to link one to a certain crime. If the evidence is not sufficient, then probably we are left to deal with the matter in the court of public opinion. And that is why you're seeing such matters come up, because in the court of public opinion, some of these things were left hanging, and people clearly were not satisfied with what was done in regard to NYS.
Banawakili?
Ben, don't listen to Kavemba when he says there was no sufficient evidence. There was no will to prosecute. And this is one of the reasons why we are calling out DPP Keriako Tobiko. He was totally lackluster in trying to prosecute some of these high-profile, political-oriented matters. And that's why we are worried when we see him in the Ministry of Environment. We cannot have such people running affairs of our country. Now, going back to Alfred Keter, I'm certain they will stick some charges on him on Monday. We also hope that the others who are left, big matters like Anglo leasing, will also be in court very soon, facing charges.
All right.
Yes.
Mark, this argument that I'm trying to be the devil's advocate for.
The saying goes like this, that life is unfair, but it's unfair to everybody, and that makes it fair. The issue we are discussing here is not a matter of whether Keter is right or wrong, but whether the law is applied consistently. The question that Kenya must answer is everyone caught in the position of Keter, are they arrested and treated the same? If this is an exception, then it is wrong whether Keter is guilty or not. If he's guilty and it is done, they've done the right thing, but in the wrong environment. But if there is consistency, that the next time a member of parliament is caught with fake currency, a member of parliament is implicated in a drug scam, a member of parliament is implicated in anything, if the course of action remains the same, then what you introduce to the public is that you are consistently chasing bad behavior. But if you are a father and two children steal sugar from the sugar can, and you cane one who you'd told before you would cane, and this other one goes scot-free, you'd be seen as an unfair father, even though you are punishing a crime. So what we need is a consistent way to handle such issues. So you're quite right in being the devil's advocate, because the standard needs to be the same. That's how it needs to be.
Well said. This was.
Well, you know, in my view, both NASA and Jubilee should encourage divergent views or opinions coming from their members. They should encourage cross-pollination. You shouldn't be punished for coming up with a divergent view. You should not be punished for expressing a view which makes your party leaders uncomfortable. That is the only way we can grow as a democracy. Because if we don't encourage a cross-pollination, then at some stage you are going to be in a bad mess. And then the curious question to ask is, how come it's only members who express divergent views, especially in Jubilee, who get into an altercation with the law enforcement officers? Would you say there's a common denominator that if you express divergent views, there's a high probability that you are a criminal? And that Chapter 6 must apply with equal weight. If you are in NASA, you mess around with Chapter 6, you must be punished. If you are in Jubilee, you mess around with Chapter 6, you must be punished. Even if you are so close to the authorities, you must be punished. But at this stage, it seems the case, and maybe it's a coincidence, that Alfred Keter has been in altercations with law enforcement officers all along, and he is considered to be a rebel MP. So that's the question people are beginning to ask. That are you punishing people for expressing divergent views? And that's a good question that Kutunyi was posing. That as President Kenyatta, you will not be remembered for these roads or electricity. You're going to be remembered for the respect of the rule of law and order. And even the Chief Justice, a few months ago, he said that we must pay high fidelity to the rule of law, that we must respect the Constitution. So if you're going to arrest an MP on Monday, and then you keep running around with him through small circles. You don't prefer a charge. You are saying you're waiting for CBK to give instructions or for CBK to file a formal complaint. Then on what basis did you arrest this chap? I mean, so did you see Alfred Keter at the CBK headquarters? Then you said, this guy is a rebel MP. Let's nab him, and then let's look for a reason. Let's charge him later. No, we are supposed to make sure that it's consistent, because it's that consistency that we need to attract investors in Kenya.
All right. Thank you. Let's leave it for that. For now. The Nandi Hills MP still in police custody. He will be arraigned in court tomorrow, that is Monday. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition.